Hi everyone, it's Erin from the CalMaskitime Makerspace. Today we'll go over some ideas for how to customize your face mask, as well as the Makerspace's mask design for #CalMaskitime. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Center for Disease Control strongly recommends we wear masks whenever we leave our homes and go to public spaces, but that doesn't mean our masks can't be unique. Before you make any changes to an existing mask or make a new one from scratch, there are two things to consider. 1. Can your mask still do its job? For example, will it still filter as well? Will it still be comfortable to wear? And secondly, if your mask is reusable, can you still wash it? With those questions in mind, let's get started. If you're like me and are making a mask from scratch, there are a lot of patterns on the internet, including some that don't even require sewing. I'll link a couple patterns in the description of this video. Before I even started making a pattern, I sketched out some design ideas. I wanted to combine several customization techniques into one mask for the purposes of this video, so I decided that making my own pattern would be the easiest way to accommodate them all. If you have a mask you really like, you can trace out the pieces and give yourself a seam allowance, and come up with a plan to stick all the pieces together. For me, my favorite mask is this white floral one, so I traced it onto a piece of paper and gave myself a 1/4-inch seam allowance. It can help to write out instructions too, so you remember what you were thinking about when you started. Fabric painting. A quick way to customize your mask is with color. You can do this with fabric paint, but if you don't have fabric paint, acrylic paint and even Sharpies can work. But those colors might bleed a bit when you wash it next. 3 things to note. 1. Before you add paint or color, make sure you're using pre-washed fabric. That'll help the color stick best. 2nd, paint on top of something like a piece of plastic or a scrap of cardboard. The color can soak through and ruin the surface beneath it. And 3, let your mask sit for a couple days after you paint it before wearing it, so if there are any fumes, they can dissipate. I haven't tried this yet personally, but another idea is to dye the fabric using food scraps. A tutorial for this is also linked below. There are a lot of interesting resources on how to dye fabric, ideally natural fabrics like cotton, using onions, avocados, spinach, blueberries, and more. Make sure to read up carefully though, as it seems like a delicate process that can require some experimentation. The supplies I'll need are some water, a paintbrush, a paper towel, a plate I'll use as a palette, and since I'm going to be painting a night sky and ocean scene, I'll use an assortment of blues, blacks, purples, and a little bit of white. I'm going to start in the darker corner of the sky, away from the lighthouse, blending in the colors, kind of mixing them together, and I'm using pictures of the night sky over the ocean as inspiration. I'm not doing anything necessarily precise here, just kind of playing around with it and having fun. And I will start adding an ocean at the bottom of the mask. The ocean I'm going to keep a little bit bluer than I did the night sky to help differentiate them. And I'll also bring in some white to show the waves. And in the sky on the other side of the mask, since it'll be closer to the lighthouse, I'll make it a slightly lighter color. Embroidery. Another way to customize a mask is with embroidery, or sewing patterns into the fabric using colorful thread. I'd recommend embroidering your mask before you sew it together, or at least making sure the thread and knots on the back don't get in your way while you're wearing it. Normally, it works best to stretch the fabric taut using an embroidery hoop, but if you don't have one, you can make one, and I'll show you how. Find a clean and empty plastic food container. Grab a pair of scissors, or if you prefer, a box cutter. We're going to cut a circle out of the lid The size of the circle we pick is how much area we'll have to work with while we're embroidering. Next, we're going to cut off the bottom of the container. Clean up the edges if you need to. So I'll separate the two pieces, center the area I want to embroider in the middle of the circle, and put the lid back on to hold the fabric in place. So now the fabric is tight and I'm ready to embroider. Don't worry if you don't really know how to embroider. There are a lot of great tutorials on different kinds of stitches or even complete designs already planned out for you. I personally just kind of improvised it. Your mask doesn't have to look technically perfect to still do its job and still be expressive. One tip I do strongly recommend though is drawing your design out first in pencil. I'm sketching out the location of the lighthouse and the different sections I'll embroider in different colored threads. Just for fun, I'm going to be using a variety of stitches, and that will help to give the lighthouse some texture. Now that the fabric is painted, dried, and embroidered, I'm ready to cut out my pattern pieces. I got a little carried away in my design and included an LED circuit in order to make the lighthouse glow. If you're going to add lights, like with glow sticks or wearable LEDs, be careful. Do your research. Make sure whatever you do will be safe to wear, especially since it's going directly on your face. I tested my circuit design using a breadboard and translated it to small pieces of proto board. Once I had all of the pieces of proto board ready and all of my components in the correct spots, I soldered everything together. After double checking the position of the circuit components inside the mask, I finalized the length of the wires connecting everything. From there, I laid out a pocket on the inside of the mask to gently hold the circuit in place. I used a piece of felt and roughly stitched it on. The electronics will need to come out every time I wash the mask, so I want the electronics to be accessible from outside the mask. To do this, I added a little Velcro opening at the top. You could do the same sort of thing to add a disposable filter material to the inside of your mask. Okay, back to the normal bit. Now that all my customization is done, I'm ready to sew the whole thing together. First, I press the material flat using an iron. Next, follow whatever instructions your pattern gives you. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can totally still stitch it by hand. It's probably best to keep your stitches short and tight. Based on the instructions I wrote at the beginning of the process, I'm going to pin along the seams I want to sew in the order I want to sew them. From there, I'll bring them to the sewing machine and stitch them together. Once I've stitched all my edges, I'll flip it inside out and make loops for the elastic. Elastic or strings. You can tie in tough string, elastic, or even ribbon. If behind the ear designs aren't comfortable for you, consider one that ties behind your head. If you're doing it yourself, choose what works best for you. The most important thing is that you wear it. Once again, keep in mind if the strings can be washed or replaced. Before you sew the ends or tie the knots, double check the fit against your face. Is it comfortable to wear, and does it sit okay on your face? If so, finish those loops and you're done. If you're a CalMaskitime student or employee, make sure to submit your mask to the hashtag CalMaskitime competition before August 15th. More info in the description below. I hope this video gave you some ideas on how to personalize your face mask. Stay safe, everyone!